The International Monetary Fund has warned that Turkey's economy was in a vulnerable position. But is a political overhaul the way forward? With me down the line to discuss is Wolf-Fabian Hungerland. Fabian, the statement welcomed monetary and fiscal tightening in the country's projections in the 2015 budget and called for a renewed focus on reducing inflation via a real policy rate. Some experts are, however, unconvinced, saying the IMF's previous recommendations led to rises in unemployment and inflation. Could this be a short-term pain for longer-term gain, though? Will these figures improve, to your mind?
So, first of all, Turkey is renowned for actually having quite a biggest monetary policy, and investors always wonder whether the central bank is actually focusing on inflation or not. Inflation targeting is crucial because its result, which is price stability, is a fundamental stable economic development. And inflation also matters greatly for foreign investors on which Turkey is heavily dependent on. Inflation can eat up nominal returns, thus rendering investments unattractive. Now, the link between inflation and unemployment is only visible in the short term. In the medium to longer term, actually, both figures are driven by other factors. Given what I just said in the beginning, I strongly agree, actually, that a renewed focus on inflation is desirable. So do I think that inflation and unemployment will improve? Current inflation is very high. For 2014 as a whole, we expect 9%. But inflation is actually stabilizing now because we don't see the lira falling much more. And in addition, inflation will go down because of statistical base effects starting probably in February or March. Unemployment, however, will stay around the current level. It is a result of structural shortcomings. Both women and minorities are only unsatisfyingly integrated in the labor force. And recent statements by Erdogan on the inequality of men and women unfortunately suggest that the government won't do much about this structural problem.
The main opposition, Republican People's Party, say the way to avoid the Turkish economy's slow death is to start with bringing back the rule of law and giving the central bank its independence. What would be the main risks economically in abandoning the AKP's strategy at this stage, though?
So, actually, I think that bringing back the rule of law and re-establishing central bank independence is a good idea, or both good ideas. The developments in these fields are actually worrying us a lot. We think that the current trend of more authoritarian policy poses risks to the wider economy. More precisely, less independent state institutions threaten investment security, both for Turkish businesses as well as for foreign investors. AKP's business model is basically cheap credit, especially for consumers. The AKP was so successful because most of its voters were able to buy a flat-screen TV now. But this credit is largely fueled by foreign money. This makes AKP's strategy actually very dangerous, especially when considering that the Fed will raise rates next year, and thus rendering investments in emerging markets such as Turkey less attractive. I therefore think that the current AKP strategy should be abandoned rather sooner than later. But there's also the risk of abandoning AKP strategy, which was your initial question. Should the AKP abandon its model of cheap credit, it will quickly lose voters. This in turn would make it harder to predict the outcome of future elections, especially in the current political climate, in which we observe ever deeper differences between what is politically on offer. Nonetheless, the AKP will not leave its strategy for sure. Next year's parliamentary elections are the most important elections so far. They are the first without Erdogan officially listed. That is, the AKP wants to make 100% sure that there won't be a drop in votes, which basically means continuing the current strategy.
Indeed, last week, for the third time in a row, the CBRT held rates steady. Analysts say the absence of a clear direction in the Turkish lira and a considerably uncertain external global market backdrop called for maintaining the status quo. But where are you expecting to see the TRY in the coming months?
I basically see the lira to stabilize over the next month, and as already noted, the ruling party AKP has a lot to lose in the upcoming elections. This means political pressure is higher than ever, and this pressure will kick through in monetary policy. This makes predicting monetary policy rather easy. This time, unfortunately, I must admit. In combination with the base effects causing lower inflation in spring next year, we expect more monetary easing in March the latest. Since this is so predictable, however, the lira won't lose too much on this easing. In the medium term, the Fed's rate hike, which we currently expect mid-2015, will certainly create higher volatility again for the lira. Likewise will the parliamentary elections.
Fabian, once again, lovely to speak with you. Thank you. Well, that's all from me for the moment, but make sure you click back for today's Commodities Corner with Darren McDermott. Goodbye for now.